they're like, usually the DVS does tend to describe where there are humans doing some actions, but it also tends to describe like the car going on the highway, because maybe it's like 2 minute thing that they're driving, so try to describe like, okay, when a car is parking and stuff. So it's not always background when there is no human action. So it's mixed. It's hard to say, which is also why the model is finding it difficult to predict.
I would wonder to what extent the segmentation is driven by this constraint that it's an audio track, so they have to fit that into the dialogue. So, you can't just put DVS anywhere. It has to be in a sort of silent space in the audio track. And that might sort of skew things a little bit. And this is why at one point we had the goal of using the audio track as input, not with the DVS obviously, but the normal audio track as input to this system. But you went down that road a little bit, but we never did that.
Yeah. But right now what we do is our DVS segments, the DVS is aligned to where the action actually takes place. So although in the original DVS, it's located at a different place where they could fit into the existing audio track, these are manually aligned by the Montreal and the folks at MPI.
But the definition of background is where there is no DVS. That's
in our case, we define things that are worth describing as whatever needs to be described for DVS, and where there's no DVS is background. Yeah. So but I think it's still a definition that's more well suited for this task, although it might not be it's not like a general definition that's applicable in all contexts. But I think it's still better defined from what I've seen in terms of like regular video description. It's like, there's nothing that really describes, okay, what's salient and what describing. Maybe things in video summarization probably do a number of techniques to identify what's salient. Yeah, those might not be the same here.
So there's two parts of this. There's the segmenting into different units, and then figuring out which of those are background and which of those are foreground. This is just a brainstorm. It's sort of related to the previous question. So it strikes me as at least superficially similar to some of the stuff that Scott Neekum has done on sort of skill segmentation, right? Where you have a big stream of robot actions or human demonstrations, and you have to figure out how to break that into these are different chunks of skills. Maybe that's just very superficial, and there's no actual technical connection between what he's done and what you've done. But I wonder if there's any possible leveraging of that kind of thing, because it seems like there is this breaking into units aspect of this before you do the background foreground.
I think I'm not familiar with the specific Scott's specific work, but then I think I can take a look into it, because in order to be able to do this jointly, I think it would help to have something that just generates the foreground segments and also jointly generates the captions, and so that we can have both of them predict. So I did try that approach and have a model, but there were also computational issues.
So Scott's input is not
Change
video
point,
though,
right.
it's motor sequence.
Right, but there's still a change point detection aspect to it. Like when is there a qualitative shift in what's happening? And that's sort of the segmentation of scenes is somewhat the same, right? There's a rich description of input features, and you have to figure out where the change point is for the purpose of labeling.
Yeah,
I think the multimodal version there would be interesting, where you have the video and the motor sequence information,
right.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Just quickly, so Kate and Trevor, are you both able to hear the conversation here, or would you like me to repeat the questions?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
So usually I would want to give preference to our external committee members, but I think for those who don't know, both Trevor and Kate have been intimately involved in the conducting of this work and have functioned as quasi co-supervisors to Subha as well. So, but you guys are certainly welcome to chime in, but they actually know this work pretty well since they've been collaborating on it. But if you guys have questions, feel free to break in.
But there's going to be a separate section at the end where it's just the committee, right?
Yeah, but I personally, I don't like leaving questions to them, because I think it's useful instruction for the larger audience to hear the questions and the discussion. But if you want to do it in private, that's your prerogative. But unless there's something private, I would say do it now.
No, just more detailed, I guess. So one question I had about the temporal segmentation, Subha. Did you evaluate accuracy of detecting foreground segments?
Accuracy of detecting foreground segments. Yeah, so the F1 measures that actually. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's just because yeah, we do. So we're still very far away from the ground truth oracle foreground segment. So it's like there are two things here, right? So yeah, so the okay. So the F1 for predicting foreground segments, which this is what our model predicts at 30.96 number. The ground truth. Okay, so how we get these foreground segments is again, so we generate segments. The unsupervised method generates segments, and then we pick those segments that have highest overlap with the ground truth DVS segments, and select those as the foreground. Specifically, those segments which have an intersection over union of greater than 0.5. Those are picked as ground truth foreground segments, and then or gold standard foreground segments. And our model is trained to predict those gold standard foreground segments as foreground and for classification tasks. So yeah, we're still only halfway there.